All right, everybody, we're going to start tonight on the Gulf Coast, where the first hurricane of the season has made landfall. And since it did, Barry has weakened to a tropical storm, but it's still very capable of wreaking havoc. Case in point, this video, which is out of Louisiana, that levee obviously spilling over. And meteorologists are expecting Barry to dump more than a foot of rain in some areas. The worst of it likely to hit New Orleans. We'll get more from NBC's Jay Gray.
Good evening from the middle of Canal Street in the French Quarter. Look, this is not your typical Saturday night in New Orleans. No big party here right now. The rain has been spitting throughout the afternoon. It's going to intensify. It looks like landfall for Barry, really just the start of the fight for so many in the strike zone.
Barry, the first hurricane of the season, didn't maintain that status for long. A Category 1 storm for just a few hours before quickly dropping back to a tropical storm as it made landfall west of New Orleans.
Although Barry has slowed, it's also intensified.
There is a significant danger right now across the strike zone. Mandatory evacuations ordered this afternoon in Terrebonne Parish, while in Plaquemine, the rush is to get cattle to higher ground. Some areas bracing for what could be another 20 inches or more of rain.
It's going to be a long several days for our state. I know the people of Louisiana are strong and resilient, and I can assure you we are going to get through this, but there are going to be some significant challenges.
A challenge that is already growing, like the floodwaters in low-lying parishes.
You can see it by the bridge right here, the water pushing up underneath the bridge.
Streets and neighborhoods have already been swallowed with more water on the way.
The most we can do right now is just flood fight.
A fight that forecasters say, like the rain, will continue for the next several days here.
Now, there is still a shelter-in-place order in effect. It starts at 8 o'clock tonight in the city. The rain is expected to intensify and continue for at least the next 24 hours here. Jay Gray, NBC News, New Orleans.
All right, let's bring in meteorologist Joe Ranieri now, who's been tracking Barry in the Weather Center. So, Joe, what's sticking out to you at this point?
It's the heavy rain, Maggie, that's going to continue over the next couple of days. So here's the latest on Tropical Storm Barry. As you just heard in that story, Maggie, it became a Category 1 hurricane earlier today before making landfall, quickly downgraded to tropical storm again. Wind speeds have been anywhere from about 60 to 65 miles per hour most of the afternoon, and that's kind of where we're looking at right now. As we put this into motion, it's making a direct path basically north over the next 24 to 48 hours. And you'll notice by tomorrow afternoon, it'll be down to a tropical depression with wind speeds at 35 miles per hour. But again, the big concern isn't going to be necessarily the wind. It's going to be the widespread flooding that we've been seeing here in the last several hours. Look at some of these numbers. This is going all the way into the middle part, end of next week. By parts of Little Rock and Memphis, they're looking at anywhere from 5 to 6 inches of rain over the next several days. So it's going to be widespread when you talk about the flooding. The next model I want to show you, this is what we call the spaghetti model. It's kind of interesting because it tells you the projected path of some of the different models that you expect to take. And a lot of them are holding true. They're making a direct north direction, and it kind of shifts off to the east, moving in through. The one model is showing into parts of Boston and New York City by the end of next week. Now I want to talk about some of the watches and warnings. Kind of impressive. This orange color is the coastal flood advisory, and a lot of these advisories are going to be in place here the next couple of days. This green is widespread through parts of the panhandle of Florida to parts of Alabama, and of course Mississippi and Louisiana are in that green. That is a flood warning in effect until a little after 5 o'clock tomorrow. But again, like I've been telling you about some of the rain through parts of Little Rock and Memphis by the middle part of next week, end of next week, that flood advisory is going to extend through more than just a couple of states over the next few days. Maggie, I'll talk more about the local forecast in about 10 minutes.
All right, Joe, thank you. We'll see you soon. Let's change gears now and turn to that huge traffic jam that tied up the interstate for 8 hours. It ended up being last night. And the reason is that police say a man was threatening to jump from 12th Avenue onto a busy I-84 rush hour on a Friday. They eventually got him to come down. But now, because this was so public and it impacted so many, they're telling us more about how this all played out. KGW's Art Edwards joins us live from Northeast Portland. And so, Art, thankfully, in the end, again, no one was hurt.
Oh, that's right. No one was hurt, and that's the kind of outcome that police really are looking for in a situation like that. They say that their first consideration is the safety of the person involved, the safety of the public, and then the safety of police. This all started when police got a call at about 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon about a man outside the fence on Northeast 12th Avenue, the overpass crossing I-84. They said that he was threatening to jump. ODOT closed the freeway, and that caused a massive backup for cars that were going eastbound primarily. Officers with the Enhanced Crisis Intervention Team with the Portland Police Bureau talked with the man, tried to get him to move to a safe spot. After more than 8 hours, the man finally came back over the railing, and police were able to get to him. Now, some people have questioned why they didn't try and drag the man to safety, but police say trying to pull the man to safety is a tactic that they generally avoid because of safety concerns.
We recognize that this was a significant impact on anyone trying to drive on I-84 during the course of that event, but we think it's worth it because no one was hurt, no one was killed, and everyone went home.
Now, once the man was back on the other side of the railing away from the freeway, police were able to get to him. They took him to a hospital where he was getting a mental health evaluation. Once again, police say that they understand that it was difficult for a lot of people trying to drive, but they ended up with the kind of outcome that they wanted, and they felt that they handled it in the best way that they possibly could. Maggie, back to you.
All right, Art Edwards live with that info. Art, thank you. And by the way, a reminder, if you know someone who is struggling with thoughts of suicide, you can find help 24 hours a day. The number is right there. It's 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK. Now to Tacoma, where police shot and killed a man outside an immigration detention center. They say he was armed at the time and trying to set buildings on fire. This happened early this morning at the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma. We've talked about that facility before. It holds migrants for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Police say the man was throwing, quote, incendiary devices at buildings and vehicles, and they say a vehicle actually did catch fire, and they say the man tried to ignite a big propane tank. Police say they called out to him, and then, as they put it, shots were fired. He died at the scene. No one else was hurt, and police say they're still trying to figure out his motive. It's worth noting this happened about 6 hours after a peaceful rally outside that center. And that rally was one of many across the country over ICE raids planned for tomorrow in big cities. We want to make this very clear. Portland is not one of those cities. Some that are include San Francisco, Los Angeles, Denver, Houston, Chicago, and New York. Last night, protesters marched through the streets in Portland and other parts of the metro area, showing their support for undocumented immigrants. These rallies continued today in other parts of the U.S. President Trump, for his part, saying he doesn't like authorizing ICE raids, saying it in part there, but says those being targeted have already been given deportation orders and they're focused on, quote, criminals. Democrats say the raids are a political ploy to appeal to the president's base. All right, let's change gears once again. We're going to talk now about a troubling conversation bubbling up on social media. You might have seen it. In short, some of the NBA's biggest stars, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Chris Paul, have been posting and tweeting images like this one. It's a collage of photos of a Portland teenager. The caption, "Portland, please help us find Naya Bliss Wilson." The posts say she was last seen Thursday night in North Portland's Kenton Park wearing a tan tank top and blue jeans. The posts then give a phone number for anyone to call with info. The Blazers have actually shared this on their official team social media pages too. So here's what we know about this. Portland police say they're investigating this case, but they have told us they deem this a runaway. They say they don't have any reason to believe that Naya is in danger. But her parents have shared these pleas on what appear to be their social media pages. They're begging for help finding her. And we've been told by a staff member at Lincoln High, Naya's school, that her father knows the Blazers' CJ McCollum, which is apparently how these players got involved. We have reached out to the family for more info, and we're working to get more details from police. We'll stay on it and bring you updates as they come. On a lighter note, happening right now, the 17th annual Mississippi Street Fair. It is Portland's largest street fair, and per usual, it's got hundreds of vendors selling food, art, there are bands playing music. It's all about celebrating that neighborhood. And if you want to check it out, head to Mississippi Avenue in North Portland. It's going until 9 tonight. If you need a little extra motivation, KGW's Brittany Falkers has it for you. Brittany, this year, proceeds from the fair are going to help teenagers in that area get their first jobs.
Yeah, it is an awesome program, Maggie. And I have to say, it's a party here along Mississippi Avenue, from the food to the music and local vendors. There's really something for everyone. But the best part really is that it's raising money for this local internship program that's focused on kids from this area, kids who are also often disenfranchised from the own community that they live in. The goal is to bridge the gap by bringing local businesses and teens together.
That's how you toss the skin.
16-year-old Asa Pritchard knows how to make pizza perfection.
I actually got it down perfectly, and it was just like amazing.
This is his second summer working here at Mississippi Pizza along Mississippi Avenue.
I've never worked before, so my very first job in the community working as a local pizza parlor, it was like the best experience that I've honestly could ever imagine.
He landed his first job here through the Boise Business Youth Unity Project, known as Buy Up.
And we did the interns because it was just another step into that being part of the community. And the street has always been a huge proponent of like helping out the neighborhood, helping out children, helping out SEI or Boise Elliott. That's just kind of what we do.
The historically black Boise neighborhood looks much different than it did 2 decades ago. As more businesses came in, the demographics of the area began to shift and tensions escalated between local youth and the changing community in which they lived.
There's been a healing process between the youth and the neighborhood.
Buy Up was created through the Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center, using donations to give local youth jobs right here in their neighborhood. And it's made a difference.
The demographics of the neighborhood changed a lot. And so Buy Up, I think, tries to smooth out those tensions by creating opportunities for people that are from the neighborhood and lived here before it changed.
Philip Stanton and his wife opened up Mississippi Pizza 19 years ago.
We were sort of invaders into the neighborhood, if you will, because when we first came to the neighborhood, there weren't a lot of businesses open.
He saw the rift between kids and businesses firsthand, but for the last 9 summers, he's helped build up community relationships through the program.
You see them outside the business, and all of a sudden, you have this bond with them, which is something that really never could have happened without the internship program.
And that bond is something Asa does not take for granted. Kneading the dough with the ingredients to build up the community he calls home.
Just giving back to your community, I mean, that's like the best thing about it, you know? You say, like, I live down the street, I live in this neighborhood, grew up here, so, you know, it's amazing just to be back and able to work down the street from homes.
Now, it is really a cool program, and the Mississippi Pizza, now they're not the only business benefiting from this. There's 7 different businesses in the Boise neighborhood that are participating with interns this summer, and they're able to pay these interns as well. They're able to do that through donations to POIC. So a portion of the money that's raised here at the Mississippi Street Fair today goes right back into the pocket of these local teens. And you can learn more about the program. We've got information for you at kgw.com. Back to you, Maggie.
Yeah, Brittany, that fair is such a blast anyway, but that's great extra motivation to head down there. Thank you so much. Great story.